Immediately contests the center, opening diagonals and preparing piece development. Developing the knight to its natural square, this offers excellent flexibility and control over central squares. Securing central control, c4 simultaneously challenges the knight and prepares to expand on the queen side, opening avenues for bishop development. This pawn advance signals a flexible approach, preparing to support its knight and potentially fianchetto a bishop, aiming for solid central control without immediate confrontation. Developing the knight here exerts influence on the central squares and prepares for further piece activity. Developing the knight to a natural square like d7 offers flexibility, preparing to challenge the center or support a kingside expansion without committing it prematurely. Opening the center with pawn thrust solidifies white's central presence and aims to exploit undeveloped pieces. Challenging the center directly, black sacrifices pawn structure for immediate activity and potentially open lines. Preparing a solid kingside defense, this knight strategically avoids immediate pawn confrontation, allowing flexibility for pawn pushes later. Opening that d-file and allowing white to gain central influence, a curious choice that invites central pawn play. Reclaiming the center with the knight reestablishes an imposing presence, challenging black's central control. Preparing to fianchetto, the bishop aims to reinforce the kingside and contest the central dark squares. Solidifying central control, this bishop prepares for a potential kingside castling and reinforces the pawn structure. Developing the bishop to its longest diagonal establishes a crucial diagonal influence, preparing for potential pawn breaks and solidifying piece coordination. Solidifying the center and preparing to castle, this bishop development efficiently supports the pawn structure and eyes potential attacking squares. Securing the monarch offers immediate safety, preparing for future central pawn breakthroughs or wing assaults with unleashed knights. Pivoting the queen to d2 subtly prepares kingside expansion and supports an eventual f4 pawn push, aiming for central control and attacking potential. Bringing the rook to the central file, black prepares to challenge white's central pawn presence and coordinate for potential endgame maneuvering. Solidifying the center's pawn structure, f3 prepares a kingside pawn storm and discourages black's potential knight jumps. A knight's journey to a new outpost on f8, potentially eyeing a central outpost or reinforcing kingside defense. Securing the monarch now untangles the queenside, preparing for potential central breakthroughs and freeing the rook. Establishing the bishop on this diagonal prepares for potential central breakthroughs and supports a kingside pawn storm. Establishing central control and preparing for potential pawn breaks, this piece anchors the king's defense while eyeing the open d-file. Initiating knight mobility, this piece aims to bolster kingside defense and potentially initiate counterplay by clearing the way for other pieces. Rerouting the knight to a better square, aiming to reinforce the kingside and potentially control the c-file. Finally, black unlocks the bishop's potential, activating it to a more influential diagonal and preparing to contest the center's spatial nuances. Pressuring the bishop on c6 with the knight forces a positional decision for black, potentially creating weaknesses. Challenging the knight's position and opening a diagonal for the queen's bishop, this pawn push creates immediate queenside dynamism. Unleashing a knight to a central outpost, this move sacrifices a pawn for crucial attacking potential and improved piece activity. Reclaiming central space and preparing a pawn advance, this maneuver aims to dislodge white's knight and create attacking opportunities. Initiating a central bind, white aims to fortify the e4 pawn and prepare for eventual pawn pushes, potentially opening lines towards black's king. Unleashing the knight's potential towards white's queenside weakens its central presence. Preparing to retreat the bishop offers flexibility, but consider if it truly bolsters the queenside. Reorganizing the knight to f8 offers a potential path to the kingside, though it temporarily cedes central space. Solidifying the queenside structure, this advance prevents black's knight from hopping into c5 and prepares a potential queenside expansion. Unlocking the knight's potential, this piece ventures towards active squares, aiming to disrupt white's queenside stability. Shifting the queen to the queenside attempts to support potential pawn breaks and centralize the piece for active play. The bishop on d7 now eyes the queenside, preparing for potential pawn breaks or a switch to the kingside. Unleashing a pawn storm, white seeks to disrupt black's queenside harmony and open attacking avenues. Reclaiming the initiative, black forces the pawn structure to confront the d-pawn's advance. Unleashing an audacious pawn thrust, white aims to crack open the kingside and seize initiative. Opening the c-file creates significant tactical possibilities, forcing a reevaluation of piece placement and pawn structure. Sacrificing the pawn opens the f-file, creating immediate tactical opportunities against black's uncastled king and threatening piece activity. Reclaiming the pawn opens crucial lines, but exposes your king to the incoming knight. Opening the e-file decisively, challenging black's isolated queen's pawn and creating an immediate dynamic. Reclaiming central space, black immediately challenges the pawn chain and opens critical lines for piece activity. A bold recapture opening up the knight's diagonal, threatening black's centralized pawn and potentially creating lasting pressure. Unleashing the bishop onto the open diagonal creates immediate tactical friction and centralizes activity. Reclaiming the diagonal with the queen aims to disrupt black's centralized pieces and challenge control of the c-file. Opening the diagonal for the dark-squared bishop promises dynamic play and aims to unravel white's centralized pieces. Opening the b-file and eyeing the d5 outpost, white pressures black's underdeveloped pieces. A bold attempt to generate counterplay, this pawn thrust aims to disrupt white's central control and potentially open a path for the knight. Solidifying the central pawn mass with this bishop repositioning gains valuable space and prepares for potential pawn advances. Seeking counterplay, black ignites activity on the queenside, challenging white's central control and opening diagonal threats. Sacrificing queens now simplifies into a potentially winning endgame for white, aiming to exploit black's weakened kingside pawn structure. Re-establishing the knight's central influence after the exchange fundamentally reshapes the middle game dynamics. Clearing the board simplifies the struggle for central control and opens lines for your rooks. The knight's sacrifice exposes the white king's defenses, creating immediate tactical chaos. Opening the kingside files grants immediate attacking chances, though king's safety becomes a paramount concern. Recapturing the pawn with your king opens up a critical diagonal for your remaining pieces to coordinate, but it leaves your monarch exposed to further attack. Cleverly using the knight to eye weak pawns and disrupt black's consolidating efforts,